I'm Captain Untamed Oracle. If you do not know, welcome to my little corner on the internet. And I'm going to be talking about music, hip hop, cultures, the subconscious mind. I'm going to do a deep decoding on the wounds, the weapons, and the way that we can move forward. So, first of all, let me start off by saying this. I'm not saying all hip hop has done this to us. I am not saying that every artist is aware of what they have been used to do. What I am saying is this. When you look around the world, one thing that you see in common, everybody loves the music that we make, indigenous people. And it's a war that's been going on that you probably didn't even know you was a part of. And I'm going to explain that to you because we keep talking about relationship issues. We keep talking about issues spiritually, feeling disconnected from our soul, not being able to be in healthy relationships with ourselves and with other people. I think the biggest war on earth is not a political war, okay? It's not just economic. It's not just psychological. And if I'm right, then the battlefield is not just what governments are doing. It's our nervous system. It's our relationships. It's our homes. And it is our subconscious mind. I have spent decades studying psychology, family systems, comparisons between different religions, belief systems, symbolism, music, trauma, astrology, astrotheology, archetypes, history. And the more that I study, the more I see the same pattern repeating itself. It's a different language, but it's all the same wound. And I don't want to waste nobody's time. I definitely don't want to waste mine. My time is precious, okay? But we not the enemy. We were never each other's enemy, okay? It's just a reflection of a war that we didn't even know that we was fighting. A war that we didn't even know that there was a small set of people who planned this a long time ago. So let's talk about this in real time. First of all, let me say this. Hip-hop didn't start off that way, all right? So the stories that raised us, the music that we grew up with, that's our soundtrack to our life. And so, I've noticed the way culture shapes beliefs. And what stories have we been repeating in our ears for the last at least 40 years? Not just through the music, but through the movies, through television, through advertising, and now through social media. Because culture is one of our greatest teachers. It's a mirror. Long before we became conscious adults, right? We were absorbing stories about what love looks like, what power looks like, what masculinity looks like, what femininity looks like. These narratives were created by people who studied phonetic magic. Not just phonetic, Babylonian, ancient, Kabbalah. As a Black woman, I can't even ignore the role that music has played in shaping our community. And before I go any further, let me be clear. I am an occultist, so I study the hidden. Hip-hop is one of the greatest cultural art forms ever created. It has given us poetry, resistance, it's given us truth, it's given us identity, a culture that people all around the world obviously love and emulate. People who are commercially successful in hip-hop now have normalized things that are really deeply damaging. See, I don't think the spin that is a new issue. I think it just came to a head because somebody spoke about it. Somebody that a lot of us know. These things have become so familiar to us that we accepted it as normal. Women are disposable. Women are hoes. Don't trust them. Women are gold diggers. She just wants your money. You know what I'm saying? She for the streets. She for the streets. She a problem to be managed. And we got disconnected from the fact that we are people who have souls. So ask yourself this. What happens when young boys hear those types of messages over and over again? What happens when young girls hear them too? And at some point, culture starts sounding like just entertainment. And then it starts seeming like it's the truth. And we start believing it. Music was weaponized and turned into a sonic weapon. Now, this is my theory. I could be wrong. Okay? I could be in your eyesight, your perspective, whatever. But sympathetic magic is a real thing. Repetition of music. Michael Jackson talked about this across cultures. It's long-standing. It is deeply embedded into the subconscious mind. Repeated words, repeated rhythms, stories, they shape consciousness. What is saying backwards? Ooh, don't even get me started on that. That's a whole other video. I'm probably going to have to do 2 videos to discuss this. But think about lullabies and the way that they work. Affirmations and the way that they work. All right? Now, let's talk about propaganda. So the human mind learns through repetition. So we have to ask ourselves, what have we been rehearsing together? What have we really been dancing to? Does it really mean nothing? Is it really not an impact at all? Because repetition in music means ritual, and ritual creates reality. I don't think love failed us. I think the conditioning failed us. I think hip-hop was one of the main ways, alongside a monotheistic religion, and it broke down the purpose of the divine feminine. The high priestess, she was demonized. The oracle, she's evil. The Black Madonna, she's worshipped even by the Pope. But people who are Christians think I'm talking about something that's demonic. The underworld is a very real thing. It's a realm that's connected to feminine energy. So when men are programmed to unconsciously, notice I said oftentimes not on purpose, but when they're programmed, they become blocks and they become embedded with this fear of a woman who walks in spiritual power, who out here in these spiritual streets or want to be. And they hurt themselves and the women and their daughters and everything that they touch. And now the veil is down so they can see it. See, a man who cannot honor the feminine is because he cannot honor himself. He hasn't even identified that there is a feminine aspect of himself. So let's start off by talking about the wounded masculine. Okay, so I've noticed another pattern. A lot of men weren't taught emotional regulation. They were taught emotional suppression, how to hide how you're really feeling. And there's a difference. Suppression doesn't eliminate the emotion. It buries it until intimacy digs it back up, until vulnerability brings it up. Then the woman who loves him becomes a mirror. She isn't creating the wound. She's actually revealing the wound that he has hid from himself. The wound is not new. It was just hidden in his shadow self. Most men may be good men, genuinely good men, but unless they are actively practicing accountability, self-awareness, and nervous system regulation, the 3D matrix, patriarchal virus will use them to impede the spiritual ascension of any woman in his life. Not because they're evil, but because they are unconscious. That's what a zombie really is. It's when we're unconscious or NPC. Women are like lifelines. Women who aren't honored, things begin to fall. Not because we're better, it's just we're different. We have a purpose in being a woman. And men, and when that purpose is broken and everything else kind of follows suit. See, the pattern ends when someone finally sees it. When someone with courage calls it out and addresses it and becomes a generational curse breaker. See, I cannot ignore history in what I see in the community where we have carried. Slavery separated families. Policies like welfare was warfare. Economic instability, household struggles dismantled. Discrimination created chronic stress across generations. Media helped shape the ideas about men and women and who they are supposed to be. People all around the world have an idea about American indigenous people and probably never even really met us, been friends with us. This is one of the greatest forms of weaponry. This is also a great potential for healing. Sometimes the harm is done subconsciously before we even see the actual wound itself. We have objectification, emotional distance, violence. All of these things is a root of this. And so the music that we danced to in the 90s, early 2000s up to now has become the life, the reality that a lot of us live. And we shouldn't be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised because our expectations was being shaped by something that we couldn't even see. Most of us had no idea what somatics was. CYMATICS. We're made up over 70% water. It shaped us. I grew up parentified. So I learned the opposite lesson. I learned to be responsible, to manage people's emotions, to manage the household, to keep the peace, to fix it, to carry burdens that are not yours, to apologize to people if I disappoint them, even if I did nothing wrong. And you put those two nervous systems together, because that's what's happening. And you got a lot of shame, you got a lot of disappointment, withdrawing, avoidance. One is pursuing, the other is trying to avoid. One becomes defensive, the other over explains. One is acting out of survival mode, the other is wanting to walk in sovereignty. See, healing begins when we stop reenacting the wound and the trauma and start naming that shit and facing it. Women are lifelines. And the fact of the matter is the morphogenic field, which is the electromagnetic field, it's the auric field, it's a bioenergetic field that's around people. We emanate this. We're always emanating something. And men who have little boys inside of them that are still wounded, they sabotage connections with women who are called to this path. They don't know how to be intimate. The karma from women and children being unable to feel safe because of men who were programmed by the patriarchy, who were probably good men, but just are not healed enough yet to hold space consistently. That karma is real and it's catching up to us. Now, is this a magical warfare? Yeah. And the law of polarity. Let's talk about karmic reckoning. So through my spiritual lens in this, okay, the universe is constantly inviting us into awareness through contrast. We might call that challenging, difficulties, irritation, triggers, psychology, spirituality, something else. No matter what it is, we learn by encountering the opposite. So whatever it is that you're hoping to attain, the opposite is there to teach you a lesson. So we attract people whose patterns are similar to our parents, typically as our partners. So we know what to work through. Did you catch that? Because we're being invited to grow. Now let's talk about conspiracy theories, okay? Because none of what I say is accurate, obviously. But preemptively, the culture was manipulated through sorcery. See, the hidden hand knew that and activated women in a way where we would be perceived as a threat to the emotionally unhealed men. So men became masters, the head of the woman. We're simply existing to be their helpmate, to stand behind them and make them great. You never hear people say behind every great woman is a man. See, matrilineal societies thrive. They did not go to war unless absolutely necessary. And the hidden hand, who also has studied history, used hip-hop as a sonic weapon to program the subconscious mind because music is the easiest way to bypass the conscious mind. What was the agenda? The agenda was separation. It was to separate us from our souls, to separate from ourselves, to separate us from each other. Now, this is a form of destiny swapping collectively. It's the swapping of karmic debts, the redirecting of the power, the stealing of the birthright, the redistributing of the light over generations, multi-generational. So if you're Gen X, you definitely recognize what I'm saying, even millennials. But the reckoning is here. The veil is down. The karma, the glamour magic is gone. It's all failing. The souls who are ready to heal are being called on this healing journey. This is not the funnest part of the internet to be. And I hope that I'm delivering this to you in a way that makes it not feel as heavy, because it doesn't have to. So what changes? Not more blame, but more awareness. We need to be emotionally intelligent. We need emotionally safe men. We need women who are no longer confusing love with having to sacrifice themselves. We need nervous systems that know how to regulate and co-regulate instead of co-dysregulate. Can I say that again? Because see, we can't raise children who are emotionally intelligent if we are emotionally dysregulated. We need relationships that are built on presence instead of performance and only productivity. Because a lot of us are tired, honey. We've been tired for several generations and kept going. And we can't keep going how Big Mama and Grandmama and them did. We're not meant to do that. See, I don't believe that women are here to dominate men. people get this confused. And I don't believe that men are here to dominate women. Nobody should be dominating each other. That's a language of psychological enslavement. See, love without consciousness becomes attachment and codependency. Power without compassion becomes domination. Compassion without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. That's something that I'm good at. That's my special flavor of shadow work that I have to do. But the generation that we are birthing, they deserve better. They deserve to inherit some wisdom alongside with all of the baggage that we're probably passing down to them. And you have to be the one to say, you know what, this shit ends with me. I'm done. I don't want to live this way anymore. You are who you have been waiting for. So, religion, yeah, it dismantled us. And we thought that carrying burden, and we glorified things that should not have been glorified. Blood sacrifice, someone being tortured across a 3-day time span. People watching that happen, watching someone bleed and be tortured and be hurt. I mean, as wounded masculine and feminine energies are coming to the awareness of how wounded we are, we can see that a lot of the images that were put in front of us actually was trapping us in a cycle of more trauma. So I wrote 2 books. I wrote a book for you, sis. It's called Unfuck Your Savior Complex. And I mean that in the kindest way. But it's because we do try to save and fix. Okay? We have to unfuck that. We have to heal that and release that. The guilt that you feel when you finally do something for yourself, yeah, that's a sign. And there are 8 points in your natal chart that will tell you a story about yourself. It's your soul contract. I had men reach out, so I would run for men as well. And it's the alchemist guide to becoming a safe man, how to unfuck your relationships. Because the source of his issues isn't her symptoms. Her symptoms is opening a sanctuary for him to see that so that he can heal himself. These aren't just books. They're protocols. They're maps. They are the tools that I wish someone would have handed me years ago and would have saved me a whole lot of time and energy. So you can get the books, you can work on them at your own pace. Instead of me doing a course, I've done many of those. I'm like, no, let's let people work at their own course, at their own, whatever works for you best. So if there's 10 to 15 minutes a day, instead of having a course and you got to sit through a whole hour, you can just break it up into pieces and work on a little bit at a time. If you are someone who, like me, kind of lean more towards fawning and codependency, then this work is going to heal you. Because not only are you opening your Akashic record, which is your soul contracts with these 8 points in your natal chart, which I tell you how to find. You can be a newbie, you can be an expert. It doesn't matter. It's going to be something in there for everybody. But if we are not healed enough to hold space consistently, then the space on earth is going to be dysfunctional. Because it is also a mirror of what's happening inside of us. And when this whole spin that issue came up, I was like, this is really interesting because I've seen these patterns for a long time. When I did Dark Alliance 2.0 decoding, that should be on my Patreon. Yeah, I knew we had a much deeper problem. This is not just semantics. This is somatics. This is what happens when frequencies and sound vibrate through our 70% plus bodies of water. And it programs us without us even knowing. To be woke, to awake, to have an open third eye, that means that you never go back to sleep again. That means that you have to learn how to sit in the uncomfortable energy of what you are discovering. And you must learn how to be an alchemist and to take what you are learning, to take what you are experiencing, and to turn it into something that's useful. I sit before you because I have taken the trauma that was given to me and turned it into one of my greatest gifts, which is the wisdom that I share. So this weaponization, I'm not done. I think that I'm just getting started. I'm probably going to do a series on this and talk about this more because the priestesses, the oracles, the goddesses, the healers, the shamans, like we're reclaiming, recalling, remembering our past lives. And for those of you who I don't want to read a book. Okay. I have an album streaming on all platforms called Protecting My Peace. And just vibe with that and see, do you feel a difference with the language and the stories that I'm telling? Like, how does it resonate inside of you? Pay attention to that. And you know, it's a lot of good men out there, but it's not a lot of safe men. There's a difference. And there's a lot of great women out there, but it's not a lot of women that actually feel safe. And a lot of us, we really hadn't been able to live the soft life that we want to. And so many people say that they have the answers and they could tell us how. It's easier said than done, especially when you're living in a time like we're living in now, where the veil is down. There's no more hiding, and there is no more mask that is going to hide the mess that has been created. So those things are there. I'm going to put the link to Patreon in the description. I have a free tier and up, whatever you choose. It gives you the amount of content that you can have. I'm going to put the link to the coven down there as well, wherever you're watching this. And just know that, you know, I would love to hear from you, because the decoding on SpinNet, I'm not posting that here. That went way deeper than I was expecting. I don't even know if I'm going to do it. If y'all interested, let me know. But I'm not putting a lot of energy into that, because that's going to require some alchemy. And I'll give y'all a clue before I leave, because it's easy for us to think what's going on with celebrities has nothing to do with us people on this level of reality. But it does, because of everything that I have just explained to you. So if you don't study magic, you won't know when it's happening to you. And I know people say, well, if you don't believe in it, it can't affect you. If anything that I have ever posted is something that resonated with you, you have been affected by magic, my dear. And this is why I read and study it all, so that I can share this information with you all. All right, y'all. See y'all in the next video. Peace.